The weather is getting warmer, the days are getting longer, spring is among us, really, we're more smack dab in the middle of spring, and summer is just around the corner. And I don't know about you all, but what comes to mind for me at this time of year is definitely fresh cut fruit, colorful and very good smelling florals. And in today's video, I thought it would be fun to theme our pattern roundup around that. I scoured the internet for the 25 cutest fruit and floral themed patterns to share with you all. I have a good mix of free and paid patterns here. Majority of the patterns are going to be crochet, 23 out of 25. I did sneak 2 really cute knit patterns into the wearable section, so I hope that's okay with you. Just like my last video, all of the patterns and the designers will be listed out in the Google Doc that is linked in the description box down below. So if you see anything that you'd like to make, please refer to that document and we'll have all of the links. And other than that, let's go ahead and jump right in. Starting off the Amigurumi section, we're going to kick it off with this 8-in-1 Little Fruit Plushies pattern by Handmade by Annie. I have purchased this pattern and I've made quite a few of these plushies for market prep, and they have sold really well for me in the summertime. She also does have a free version on YouTube where it's just the fruit slice. I'm not sure which one it is, whether it's the watermelon or the orange, but it's the same base regardless. One of my favorites out of this pattern was to make the little blueberry. The next pattern is this avocado family. And yes, before you stop me, avocados are indeed fruit. I'm sure you knew that, but I remember I was mind blown when I found out that anything with seeds is a fruit, because I always thought, this was a while ago, I will say, I was younger, but I've never realized that cucumbers and tomatoes were in fact fruits, not vegetables. So avocado family does belong here, but look at how cute this nested pattern is. It's got 3 different pieces, and so you can take the baby out and move it around, which I just think is so adorable. It looks like the designer did use a more sturdy yarn, like a cotton yarn, versus a more plush, delicate yarn or like a blanket yarn. And I do think that that helps it to maintain its structural integrity, but I would be super interested to see how this would work up if you used a softer yarn. Next is this daisy flower amigurumi, and I think that these are just perfect for market prep. They look really simple to make. I think that they would be so quick to work up. You could probably just sit there and watch your favorite show and bust out like 10 to 15 of them super fast, and the color combinations are kind of endless. So I love this one. Next in the section are the no-sew berry bears. I mean, look at this strawberry. It is absolutely adorable. This pattern is by Nooks Hooks. I actually pretty recently made her hoodie bears pattern, and it turned out really well. It was super easy to follow along with, and it was no-sew, and I'm sure that this will be a very similar case, being a really well-written pattern. So I can't wait to do this one really soon also. And then wrapping up this section, we have the crochet tulips. I think that if you made a bouquet of these, they would be such an amazing Mother's Day present. I also can't think of a more spring flower than tulips. That's what comes to mind for me. I actually haven't made any of these like wire flower amigurumis in the past, and I think it would be kind of fun to experiment with, although I don't know if I'm that patient. I probably will give it a shot, but I wanted to throw this one in here for anyone who is interested in making some flowers this spring or summer. Also, I hope the lighting is okay in here. The sun is starting to go down and I'm having to move my curtains around, so if the lighting changes like 10 times, I'm very sorry. But now we're gonna move on to the wearable section, and we're starting off so strong with this strawberry crochet sweater pattern. I love the checkerboard sleeves. I love the daisy and strawberry granny squares and the scalloped ribbing at the top. I would love to make this and just wear it so loud and proud. The next one is also a strong one, the Georgia Peach cardigan pattern. This is a very similar vibe to the last one, but it is peach themed instead of strawberries, and it's also a cardigan versus a pullover. But look at how cute the granny squares are with the peaches in them, and then also having the gingham spread throughout with the puff flower daisies all over. If I had to choose one though, I think I would make the strawberry pattern first. Moving on to one that's a little bit less loud but still beautiful, this flower crochet cardigan. It is made just using granny squares, and I think you could probably make this in like a cotton or something where you won't get too warm, because it does look like it's a little bit bulky, and I think that the yarn that they used for this was a little bit bulky, but the concept would still be the same if you used a thinner cotton. You would just have to make your granny squares just as big as the creators would be using the bulky weight yarn. So something to keep in mind for this if you were to do this in the summer as your make. Here's one of the knit patterns that I mentioned that I had to sneak in there. This is the Make Myself Flowers vest, and I just think that this is such a gorgeous floral vest. I love that it is a sweater vest, so that way you won't be as hot as you would be if you had those super long sleeves. And also, bonus, it takes a lot less time to work up when you don't have the sleeves. So love this pattern. And I also think that the color combinations would just be endless here. You could do pinks, you could do blues, you could do a light lavender. Then we have these berry special socks, and I'll be completely honest, these are probably beyond my skill set, but I did want to put them in here just in case anybody is a pro knitter, or what I would consider to be a pro knitter. I would live vicariously through you until I developed my skill enough to make these. I haven't done any color work with knitting. Next is the Floral Lace Shawl by Olga Poltava, and this is actually a free YouTube video. As I was scouring the internet for these patterns, I saw this beautiful floral shawl, but it was a vintage pattern, and I've never tried to make a vintage pattern, but I have heard that they can be kind of challenging to read. I thought especially for something where there's a special stitch like this, a YouTube video would be a lot better to include, not to mention it was paid, and so I thought that this was a better option to include in the video. I also think that it would probably work up quite quickly with all of the gaps that there are and all of the chaining in between each stitch, so I am definitely going to try to find the time to make this shawl this spring and summer. Kicking off the accessories section, we have these really quick and easy fruit pouches, another free YouTube tutorial by Chubbies by Ash. I think I mentioned her in my last pattern roundup video. She has amazing YouTube tutorials. This one is a little bit less on the nose with the fruit, and it's a little more subtle, but we all need stuff to carry our fruit in, especially if we go to farmers markets and we want to get some fresh fruit and veg. So, veg. Veggies? Why did I say veg? I never have ever said the word veg in my whole life. That is really funny to me. But anyway, if you do want to go to the farmer's market to get some fresh fruit and vegetables, then you'll need a bag to carry it in, right? And I think it's just the perfect option. This was not this specific pattern, but a market bag like this was one of the first things that I worked up when I first learned how to crochet, and I just think that they're a really great make for beginners and advanced crocheters alike. Next are these crochet strawberry earrings, and this is another free YouTube tutorial. I have always wanted to try to make those really tiny crochet projects, but like I've said before, patience is not necessarily my strong suit. I do think that this would be a really fun make though, and all you'd have to do after the fact is just attach it to the two earring hooks, and it seems like it would be relatively simple. Next, we have the watermelon coin purse. Watermelon is just such a staple summer fruit, and if you add the little wristlet or a zipper, that could really level this up, and it would once again be a really simple thing to make. Most likely all you have to do is make a round watermelon piece and then fold it up and follow the instructions on seaming. Next is this crochet bandana, and when I was searching, I don't know that this necessarily said anything about this being floral, but I kind of thought that the stitch gave off a bit of a floral vibe, and it was just too beautiful not to include. I want to make this pattern in like a cream or a sandy brown color. Honestly, I have not worn a bandana since I was like probably in kindergarten when my mom made me, so it would be an interesting test to see if I can push myself outside of my fashion comfort zone by wearing this, but either way, it looks like it would be a really fun make. You could also repurpose it and put it on a bag or something if you don't want to wear it on your head. And then wrapping up, we have the Daisy Day Tote, and I love the size of this tote first and foremost, but also the color work with the daisies. I think that this would be such a great bag to take with you to the beach or to your next picnic, and not only is it adorable, but it's also extremely functional. Starting off our home section, this one could kind of have spanned multiple different categories, but I'm just sticking it here. It was originally miscellaneous, but I realized most everything is for the home. So this floral granny square. It cost $1.40 on Etsy to buy the pattern, but I just think it turned out so beautiful. And if you think about all of the different things that you could make with this pattern, I think it's well worth the $1.40. You could make some beautiful blankets, cardigans, scarves, bags, headbands, fanny packs. Really, the sky is the limit. You just need to have the granny square pattern. I love the colors that they chose here also for the photo of all of the different granny squares that they made. I think it would just make the most beautiful blanket ever. Then we have the crochet puff flower mirror, and these were really trendy at one point. This is a free YouTube tutorial that shows you how to make these specific puff flowers and then how to put them on the mirror, but you could really do anything with these flowers. You could also put them on a keychain. I've seen people stitch them together to make a blanket. You can even weave them, stitch them onto your clothes like a finished sweater, similar to what we saw with the Georgia Peach sweater. So many options here. Then we have the chrysanthemum coasters, and what I love about this one is really that surface stitching. I feel like it just brings a new dimension to something that would have otherwise been pretty flat, and it just brings a cool 3D pop to an otherwise very simple design. Next, we have these daisy coasters. A lot more simple to do than the last pattern, I think. There's not as many color changes. There's not any surface stitching. If you know somebody that has a spring or summer birthday, I think this would make a great gift. You could make one of each of the colors, tie them up with a ribbon at the end, and it would just be so thoughtful and sweet. But if I were to make these or any of the coasters or pot holders in this section, I would definitely use a cotton yarn instead of an acrylic. You don't want to be using acrylic for anything where there's going to be heat that is anywhere near the yarn, because it can make the yarn hard and kind of weird, or it can change the shape of it. So I would definitely recommend a cotton yarn for this. That recommendation also does apply to our next pattern, which is the cherry coasters. Look at how cute these are. Cherries have really had their moment as a fruit over the last few years, and for good reason. What I love about this pattern is that like vintage vibe that it's giving off, which ties in really nicely to our next pattern, which is actually a vintage cherry apron. I'm really tempted to try to make this because, like we talked about earlier, I've never made a vintage pattern, and I think it would be really fun to try to put my skills to the test to see if I can read a pattern without any help from the internet, which is not something I'm used to doing. But I do think that this pattern is just so cute. It looks like there's some shell stitching maybe. I love the little cherry motif that's on the pocket, and then the border and the frills. I would love to challenge myself to make this, even though I don't know when I would wear it. I have not worn an apron ever in the kitchen. But that doesn't mean I can't start, right? I'll be walking around with aprons and a bandana after I'm done making all my things from this video. Then we have this berry pie pot holder, which just screams summer to me. Unfortunately, I've never lived anywhere where berry picking was a typical summertime activity that I got to do. But if you do, just imagine you went berry picking, you've got all of these extra berries left over, you have to make a pie with them. But what better to pull your pie out of the oven with than this pot holder right here? And you don't have to have that exact scenario to love this pot holder and to make it. I just think that would be ideal. To wrap up, our 25th pattern is this no-sew flower pillow by Wonder Crochet. If you don't follow her, she has many amazing patterns. I think that this would look so cute somewhere in your house, whether it's your couch, on your bed, really anywhere. Come to think of it, I have a lot of yarn from my mystery box that I opened up in my last video, and this might be the perfect make for that. It would be a great stash buster, so I think that's what I'm gonna use it for. I just think it's a wonderful free pattern by Wonder Crochet. So that's gonna wrap up today's video. I really hope that you enjoyed this pattern roundup of 25 fruit and floral themed patterns. If you did, please like, subscribe, and I will be back in the future with more crochet related content soon. Thanks, bye!